What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all doing well. Now I have a tool review for you guys today, and this is Trend's new cordless router. It's part of their new cordless battery system range. You guys, if you're into woodworking or carpentry work, you'll be pretty familiar with Trend. They do everything from routers to guide bushes to drill bits to router bits, sharpening implements, all that kind of stuff. Anything to do really with the woodworking and carpentry trade, Trend have tools for it. Like I said, this is part of their new battery system, and I've been using this over the last couple of months, just testing it out, and you probably have seen me use this little tool in some of my recent projects. Now, full disclosure, this was sent to me by Trend, but they're not paying me, and I'm under no instruction to say anything about this whatsoever, so I can say what I like about it, and I'll give you guys an honest opinion on this little tool. So let's jump in, take a look what comes with it, and we'll test it out. Okay, so let's have a look at this kit and see what it comes with. Now, this is the one with the two batteries, so it has two 4-amp-hour batteries. You can see everything in the box right there. So we have the Plunge Base and the main router itself. We have the Palm router base here with it as well. We have two 4-amp-hour batteries. We get the charger, of course. We have the parallel guide for the Plunge Base, and this stuff is really well stuck in here, I have to say. You might even want to loosen that up over time, but here's your parallel guide for your Plunge Base. We have the parallel guide for the Palm Base. We have a 16mm guide bush. We have the guide bush centering tool. Again, these things are very well stuck in here, and they're a little bit hard to get out, so I'll pull that out now in a second. Don't want to break it. Obviously, you have your spanner. Then for adjusting your collets, you have the dust collector and guard for your Palm Base. You have the dust collector and guard for your Plunge Base. And it also comes with an additional collet, so an 8mm collet, which is really nice. Comes with a 1/4 inch collet already installed, but it's great to have the 8mm one there as well, which is really nice. So let me get you in for a close-up of all these bits and pieces, and I'll show you the tool. Okay, so there's the kit laid out with all the bits that come with it. And like I said, this is the kit that comes with two 4-amp-hour batteries. There's also a kit that comes with one 4-amp-hour battery, and then there's a kit which is just the bare unit itself. So you get both bases, the motor, and all the attachments that come with the base. Now, the box that comes with it is pretty decent. It's probably not as premium, maybe I'd say, as a DeWalt or Milwaukee box, but other than that, I've really no complaints. Now, the components are really well stuck in there, so when it comes from new out of the box, you kind of need the screwdrivers to pry out some of the stuff. So a little bit of easing on some of the plastics mightn't be any harm, but it's better for it to be too tight than too loose out of the factory, because you can adjust tightness, you can't adjust the looseness. So not a big issue in my opinion. Now, first thing I'd say about this is the price. So I've been doing some looking online. This particular kit with the charger and both batteries and everything you see here, I've seen it from around 360 to 420 euros depending on where you go. So it's pretty well priced considering say the Milwaukee Makita and the DeWalt kits are that price for body only, so no batteries and no charger. This you can buy with a single battery, two batteries, or body only. So you get the router motor itself with the bases without the batteries and charger in around 250 euros. So you can see the good price difference there. So it's pretty well priced, I think, for what it is. So let's get in for a close-up on the different parts, and I'll show you it all in action. Okay, let's start with the motor body itself. Now, it is a brushless DC motor, and brushless motors are fantastic. So brushless motors have really revolutionized the whole power tool or battery tool game. They're far more efficient, deliver more torque, generate a lot less heat. You don't have to have big openings around them to remove all that heat, so they're pretty well protected when it comes to dust ingress as well. They're just a way better motor than their brushless counterparts, and you don't have to replace the brushes in them because there are no brushes, which is another nice feature. Now, it's a pretty weighty little motor, this. It's very nicely made. It's all metal parts all around here, plastic up on top, and kind of rubber overmold around the buttons here. You can see you have a tooth pattern in the front of it here, if that's coming out on camera. That's for raising and lowering it in the Palm Base, which I'll show you. We have a metric and imperial measurement here and here, so we can see our adjustments. Slot in the back, that's just to work with the plunge base. Again, I'll show you that in a second. We have a spindle lock here, so very straightforward. It's just to push a pin in, lock your spindle so you can change your collet. I have the 8mm collet in there at the minute, and like I said, it also comes with a 1/4 inch collet, so 2 collets is quite nice. Now, as regards safety features using this, so you have to use 2 buttons to start it off. So you have a lock button here and you have an on button here. So you got to press unlock. That will turn on the LEDs. You now know it's in standby mode. So if the LEDs go off, it won't come on. So press that, hit this, and you can switch it off. And as soon as the LEDs go off, it won't then come back on again. So you have to go through the unlock. So you can't accidentally hit this thing on by pressing one of the buttons. So that's a nice little feature. So again, unlock, switch on. You can hear how nice and quiet this actual router is. Switch it off. Another nice function as well, either one of these buttons function as an off button, so I can use this as well. So in an emergency, you can hit either one of these and it will kill the motor. So that's not too bad. And again, like all these things, if I was to pull the battery out of it and put the battery back in when it was running, it's not going to turn itself back on again. So that's similar with any of the battery ones that I've used. So there you go, yeah, nice and simple. You have your speed control on the side. So I'll show you this in its base now. Okay, quickly moving on, here is the Plunge Base. So pretty straightforward. It's a nice little unit again, seems to be fairly well made. So you have your turret system here. So we have 3 different turrets and we can adjust all 3 of them individually. You have your depth stop here. It also has a micro adjuster on it, which is nice. You can see you have your measurement system here and here. So it works the same way as any depth stop. You just set it, lock it, and it will stop you plunging past that depth. Again, nice depth of plunge. This actually has a 60mm plunge, and Trend say that's the largest of all these battery powered routers. See cam lock on the back here. You have your plunge lock right here, so you can set it to whatever depth you want and just lock your router. Similar to most routers, like I say, cam lock here for locking in the tool. Thumb screws on the bottom, then you can install your parallel base, and that can go in from both sides. You just lock it into place with thumb screws. You have your guard here, which just clicks straight in here and locks in with this thumb screw. To drop the machine in then, or drop your motor in, you just line the back groove up with a pin here. It just drops straight in, let it seat all the way home, and just lock it down, and you are ready to go. Nice and simple. Now, one thing I really like about these Trend bases, and this is true for both bases, is they come ready to be used with guide bushes. Now, my Milwaukee, you have to buy an adapter plate for it. All my Triton routers, you have to buy adapter plates for them. You can't fit the metric guide bushes to them. But Trend, thinking ahead, you can absolutely fit lay guide bushes to this. You can fit the Trend guide bushes to this. It's already has the 2 screws. You have your circle area here, which your guide bush sets in, which I'll show you now in a second. We'll use that with the centering tool. I'll show you how it works. But that is true of both bases, which is good. Okay, here is the Palm base, just to quickly run through this. So nice and simple, you guys will know, understand these. Again, just for palm routing or trim router, you can hold the router in your hand. So nice, good, stable base. I like that it has the overhang here. With the guard in place, you can actually hold this, put your hands here, another hand here, and you can kind of guide this around. So it's nice, good, stable base. Again, how easy is it to do that? Just leave a space for guide bushes. It's already drilled, and you have lugs to attach your guide bush. Nice and simple, thinking ahead. It's only a small thing, but it means a lot, believe you me, when you're trying to put guide bushes onto things. Now, the mechanism for the up and down movement on this, I'm not too impressed with. It's probably my only gripe with the base, really. I also had a gripe with the Milwaukee version of this. Now, this one here uses a kind of a little thumb wheel here. It has a cog right there. If you can see that, guys, on camera, you can see it rotating around right in there. Now, my problem with this is the motor is a pretty heavy piece of kit, so it's a pretty substantial bit of kit. So it's nice and easy to lock it in, but when you loosen this and you go to adjust, it can just drop. As you can see, it just drops. The tooth wheel is not enough to hold it. So when you are adjusting it, especially when you add a battery, even if you put a 5 ampere battery on this, it would be even heavier again. So you need to hold it in your hand and adjust it. So that's just one thing. Don't let it drop. because it will drop. It's not enough to hold that motor up. So loosen this guy off, take the weight of the motor in your hand, and then you can do your fine adjustments, and it works just fine. And you can see the measurements here, so you can actually be pretty precise with it. You can see exactly where your measurements are. But other than that, it's not a great mechanism. And don't, whatever you do, try and wind the motor back up using this, because it is pretty heavy. You're going to strip the teeth off that cog trying to raise that motor up. Take the weight of the motor and raise it up like that. That's what I recommend. So it's not a great solution in my opinion. It works well so long as you support the weight of the motor. There isn't an issue, but it could be a little bit more robust. It's just a small gripe. But other than that, I've no problem with the base. Like I said, it comes ready for guide bush attachments, which is really nice. And again, nice and simple, parallel guide, just clicks on the back here. You have your thumb screw, you have a notch here. It's very similar to the Milwaukee one. That guide just slides right up in there and you lock it in place. So very straightforward. Okay, let's very quickly go through guide bushes and the guide bush centering tool. We'll do a little bit about this, we won't spend too much on it. But here is the centering tool itself. So you can see it has an 8mm and a 1/4 inch side, so it works with both of the collets. Now this mandrel part here is made of metal, which is nice. The cone itself is made of plastic, so that's your centering cone there. Now, this particular tool comes with a 16mm guide bush. I probably wouldn't use this style of guide bush. I prefer the ones with the adapter plates. If you're going to be using guide bushes, you're going to be doing highly accurate work, so you're probably going to be working with templates. If you're doing guitar making and that kind of thing, you need to be as accurate as possible. That's why a centering tool is essential, so that you know it's concentric with the entire tool, so no matter what side you're on, that is centered. So I would use something like this. This is a lay guide bush adapter plate, and as you can see, that just pops straight into the Trend Base. You can see your 2 holes are already ready to go, so it already lines up, and that's true of the palm base as well. So you can see with this, I can drop any size guide bush I want into the adapter plate, and you just lock it down then with this big lock nut or lock ring, like so. So the kit itself comes with 2 screws, so we want to lock this guy down and in place first. So 2 screws, and we don't want to lose these screws, so definitely you want to keep these safe. Now there's no tolerance in the guide bush itself, so we won't center using the guide bush, we will center using the base, which I'll show you now in a second. So we'll drop that guy in there just like that. Now I'm using the 8mm side because I have the 8mm collet in my router, so just drop that in like so. And obviously battery out always when changing the tool. You never want to risk it. Your fingers are way too important. So we'll just lock that down, just hand tighten, it'll be fine on that. So there we go, we can drop that guy into our base. It's like so, lock it in. Now what we want to do is loosen the 4 screws in the base, because the base gives us a lot more scope for movement, which I'll show you now. So as you can see, I have quite a bit of movement in that base. So all we got to do is drop our cone on that, let the pressure come back up against that cone. So my cone is now down, and you can see that's actually after pulling the base this way. So I now know that this guide bush is perfectly centered with any bit that I put in that collet. So again, I'm pushing some force now down into this cone, and it auto centers that bush right there. So now while that's all pressed down, keeping a nice little bit of force on it, I can lock back down my 4 screws, and we are happy days. And now I know that any bit that I put in there, that is now dead center of this whole system. So in order to be as accurate as possible and have the correct standoff of our templates and stuff, and our templates running against whichever side guide bush we're using, we need to make sure that we're dead center. That's nice and simple. That's how you do it. Okay, so that's just a little bit about guide bushes. Now, if any of you guys have been following my channel for a long time, especially back when I was making guitars, you guys will know my gripes when it comes to guide bushes. The Trend or the Triton router, which I really love, you have to buy an adapter plate to put on so that you can get metric guide bushes. Triton don't actually make metric guide bushes, they only make imperial guide bushes, and when I was using templates for the guitar, it's a big deal in order to find a base that fits that thing so that you can put actual guide bushes onto it. Here's my Milwaukee palm router, which I've done a review on as well. Fantastic tool, loads of power, but again, the base doesn't take guide bushes, nor does the ladder base. And it costs absolutely nothing to have just a little space to put the guide bush adapter in, and like it's just worth its weight in gold when it comes to routers. So that's one real positive I can give to this Trend router. Now, let's do a couple of test cuts with it. If you've been following my channel, you've already seen me use this thing. It has plenty of power, so I'm using it with my UJK dovetail jig. I made a whole bunch of boxes cutting dovetails with this in its plunge base, and it powered to those dovetails, no problem. But we'll do a few test cuts anyway, just so you guys can see it in operations. Let's do that now. Okay, set up to do a cut. I'm just going to hit this with a profile bit, a guided bit along the edge, just an old piece of oak I have here. So we'll just put a nice little detail edge on the edge of this, just to give you guys a look at this router in action. Now, one little gripe that I have with this as well is the dust extractor for the plunge base. I have kind of a big heavy hose with a power lead in it, and as you can see, it's pulling on it. And yeah, that concerns me a little bit, that I might snap that off. But we'll see how we go. It hasn't happened yet, but really your hose would need to be supported when you're using it with this, so that's not dragging on this piece here, because as you can see, there's a bit of flex in that, and I'd be worried about snapping that plastic over time. That's only another small gripe that I have. But anyway, let's get on and let's do a cut in this. Okay, let's take a little test cut along here, again along this piece of oak. So eye protection, ear protection, all that good stuff. Our battery is in place, so I'm just going to drop this guy down to the correct depth. So we're going to go probably full depth of cut on this. And that should be good there. Up our speed slightly to about 4 or 5, I think should be good for this. Unlock. Okay, there we go. Nothing wrong with that. Nice and simple through that piece of oak. No stress whatsoever on the motor. It just breezed straight through it. It's not the most even bore that I have in the workshop, but it's still a nice good cut along there. And obviously a good sharp cutter is everything as well. So that's pretty simple. Now, let's pull a dado or groove through this with the parallel guide. Okay, so the parallel guide set up, I have a 16mm cutter in that. I'm going to take a pretty heavy cut and do a dado just to test out the power of this machine, just give you guys a demonstration on that. So again, goggles and ear protection on, dust extraction on, and let's do it. Okay, so there we go. That's a 16mm bit, 10mm deep in one cut. Now, you would never do that with a router. I wouldn't even try that with my big Triton router. You would take that in multiple passes. If you do multiple passes, you get a much better finish. It's less likely that the router will skip or, you know, go offline or anything like that. But that was just a stress test for this particular router, just to show you how powerful it actually is. Now, you can see it cut out once or twice because I was feeding it way too fast through this, really stressing the motor, and it has an auto protect feature where it will cut the motor out if you're stressing it too much, just protect the motor. But once you slow down that feed rate through the board, it continued straight on through. Now, like I said, I would never normally cut 10mm at once with a small router like that, or even with my big router. You do that in a couple of passes. But again, it's just a stress test to show you how powerful these little DC brushless motors actually are. Okay, so I have a little small round over bit in the palm router. I'm just going to put a quick edge on this just so you guys can see it in operation. Now, I need a better system for supporting my hose here, so if the hose pulls out, it's not the unit, it's just this big heavy hose, and I haven't got a great system. I need to set up a track that this can run on, which I will do in a later video. But for now, let's just get on and cut this. Again, ear protection, eye protection, dust extractor on, battery in. Okay, there we go, nice round over bit in that. Now, the correct way to use this is to have the wide part in over the board. I actually routed it with the wide part out over the board. It's just that my dust extraction hose was coming off this way and it's less in the way because there's a bit of weight in it and it's pulling everything this way. But do the second pass with it in this way. So the nice thing about this base is you can keep your fingers pressed down on this part here and it's nice and easy to control. If you keep your hand here, keeps the router nice and flat against the base. The guard is in place, so you don't have to worry about putting your fingers in there. I wouldn't put my hand here unless this guard was in place. You never know what could happen, but it's nice to be able to keep that pressed down and just run around like that. But just one thing to bear in mind, the dust extraction hose is pointing back towards you when you have your hand on this side. So you can always come onto this side of the router and push it away from you. So yeah, that's just one little thing I'll point out. But yeah, all in all, it's a palm router, does exactly what it says on the tin. Okay, so there you go, that's just a quick few test cuts. You can see it in operation. Like I said, you've probably seen me use this thing in multiple videos and projects leading up to this review, especially making the whiskey and wine boxes and cutting all those dovetail joints and stuff. I did it with this. I especially like this tool in its plunge base. The router or the palm router base, it's a good trim base, but I've been using it in this configuration. I found it to be absolutely excellent. So yeah, not too bad at all. Now, let's kind of sum up this review. What do I like and what I don't like about it? Well, the tool is very well priced. So that's the first thing. It's well priced. Like I said, you can buy this with the two 4 amp hour batteries for the same price as the Makita, DeWalt and Milwaukee come body only. You can buy this body only for in around 250 euros. So that's 140 euros roughly cheaper than the other 3 come body only. So it's well priced for what it is. Now, a couple of little issues, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the adjustment thing in the palm base. I'm just worried that little cog could get stripped if you just weren't, I suppose, mechanically sympathetic to that device. If you're trying to raise and lower that with the battery attached, you might strip that gear. That's just one thing to be careful of. The dust extractor for the plunge base, as you can see, that's a little bit flimsy how it's held on. It could do with another screw on this side just to keep that pressed down. I'm worried that my heavy hose is going to snap that. So that's just another little gripe I have. But other than that, everything else functions fine. It's plenty powerful, it's easy to adjust, it's easy to use. It does exactly what a router should do, really. So I've no complaints there. And another plus point is the guide bush base. I can't tell you guys, that's just a major headache when you get a router and it won't take a guide bush. Believe me, if you start using templates and stuff like that, you'll know exactly what I mean. And it's worth its weight in gold to have that. 2 different collets come in the box, 8mm and 1/4 inch, which is great. And yeah, other than that, I haven't too many bad things to say about this tool. So yeah, there you go. Now, one thing I should point out, I have the Trend drill here as well. So let's give you guys a look at that. So when it comes to price, they sent me this as well, body only. Now, I had a look online. You can buy this drill for 70 euros body only. So think about that. If you got yourself this kit with 2 batteries and then you got yourself a drill, now you're really starting to save. Now, the thing I like about this, I've been using this out on site. I'm an electrician and I've been abusing this thing to see if I can get it to fail. And so far, it has stood up to everything I've put it through. Now, it has a metal Jacobs chuck. It has metal gears and a brushless motor. It's the same size as the Milwaukee Gen 1. one drill, and I have battered this thing to date and it's still going strong, and this feels as robust. Maybe it doesn't feel as premium as the Milwaukee, but it certainly feels as robust. So when you start to factor in things like that, the Trend battery system, if any of you guys are into the hobby end of things, or even carpenters and stuff like that, you're looking to actually get into a battery system, then yeah, I would definitely recommend, for bang for buck, the new Trend battery system is up there. And like I say, this drill is pretty good. A metal Jacobs chuck, metal gears, and a brushless motor for €70. You just don't see that anywhere, considering the original chuck that came on my Milwaukee was absolutely horrendous. So yeah, Milwaukee have since sorted that out. So yeah, there you go, guys. Now, if you are already obviously invested in a battery system, if you've already have a whole bunch of Makita, DeWalt or Milwaukee tools, it's going to be harder for you to kind of start into another battery system. But I'd say if you're starting out, you're looking to get into a battery system, then definitely consider the Trend. From what I can see so far, for the bang for the buck, for price wise, yeah, they're pretty decent. A few little gripes that I would change, redesign, which I have pointed out in this video, but other than that, I have no real complaints. So there you go, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that review. Hopefully it gives you some good information. If you're in the market for a tool, hopefully this helps you out. And like I said, this was sent to me, but I'm not been paid, and I can say whatever I want about it. So I'm as being 100% honest. And if anything fails in any of these tools, believe me, I will be the first guy to let you know, and you'll see me using these over the next couple of months anyway. So that's it, guys. I'm going to get out of here now. Give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. If you're new here, think about subscribing. Comments and questions below. Any questions you want to know about these tools, get in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer it. Thanks to everybody over on Patreon who continue to support the channel. Very much appreciated, guys, as always. So that's it. Yeah, another tool review done. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take it easy.